With the recent purchase of the Sellita SW200 chronometer certified movement that I do have a service video for, so please go ahead and take a look at that one. I decided to kind of see what was available on a particular auction site, and kind of see what I could just purchase quite cheaply, with the exception of the movement, and kind of build a watch from eBay parts. So we're going to firstly take a look at the case. The case is 40mm in diameter. It's fit for an ETA 2824 movement, so that's why I've got the Sellita SW200, because it's a 99.9% match, so it will drop straight in there with no problem. It does come with a stainless steel solid link strap, with quite a nice clasp, so it should work quite nicely. Screw down crown, and it comes with everything you see here. So let's take the bracelet off and have a look what's inside the movement. So now we've got the bracelet off. You can see the glass and glass gasket comes with the watch. It's got a screw down crown, and it's got a screw on case back. If we take this off, it also comes with an O-ring and a movement holder, and that should fit our Sellita SW200 movement. Now the case is set up to take a 28.3 to 29.3mm dial. I did buy a couple of different dials, as at the time I wasn't decided 100% what style I wanted to go for, but I've settled on this one. You can see, you probably recognise the style. It's a fairly common style. So the 28.3 to 29.3 is referring to the outside diameter of the dial. So if we flip this over, pop this in here, you'll see that fits quite nicely in there. This particular dial has a outside diameter of 29mm, so it was pretty much slap bang in the middle. They do come in nice little cases, and fairly well wrapped, considering these are cheap. You know, I think this was about £10, including postage, so not a lot of money at all. You do see it does come with a 4 dial feet, so we will need to look at removing 2 of those, and making sure that we're removing the 2 that we don't need and keeping the ones that we do. So I'm just going to move that to the side. I selected a handset to go with the dial. Again, you'll probably recognise these types of hands. There's a couple of diameters that you want to look out for. Often you can just say, select the ETA 2824, just type that into the search, and you'll find the right hands. They pretty much noted. You don't have to worry about the diameters too much. So they should work nicely on the movement. We're just going to put those to one side. So we've already seen the Sellita movement, the SW200. And now we're going to go ahead and make sure we've got the correct dial feet on our dial. So a quick way to determine which dial feet we need to keep. You can, probably the easiest way is just to insert the crown so that you have a reference point for 3 o'clock. You don't have to go all the way. And then you'll see there's a hole here and a hole over here for the dial feet. Put the dial over the top of the movement, and you'll see that there's 2 holes in particular. So this one here that line up, and the other 2 we don't need. So there's one at 6 o'clock and one at kind of 11 o'clock. So we don't need those 2 feet. Now looking at it, the dial feet on this, if we move movement to the side, the dial feet on this, if we turn it over, so we don't need this one here. They look like you should just be able to rock them from side to side very gently, and eventually the feet will just fall off. There you go, nice and easy. Again, flip over, just double check that's the one we want, so we don't want the one at 11 o'clock. Just rock it from side to side. The dial feet just come straight off. So we're going to put the movement into the movement holder. Although first thing we want to do is make sure our 2 dial feet clips, retaining clips, are pulled out. So there's one here, and one here, and then we want to flip this over. Actually, make sure those clips are all the way out. Flip the movement over. Actually, I think I'll put it on here. And then you want to just double check that the dial feet that you've left on are straight, which one of them isn't quite straight, but now they are. Line them up with the 2 holes. See, one's gone in quite nicely. There we go. So has the other one. So now we've located the 2 dial feet we want to keep, and we removed the old ones, or the unused ones. We've taken out the 2 dial feet clamps here and here, and we've got the hour wheel on. We're going to set the dial on the movement, being careful not to touch the front of the dial. Just line up the dial feet holes, it'll drop straight in, and then just gently push the dial feet clips back in place. Now we've got the dial nice and secure. Sits in there quite nicely. Next thing we're going to look at is getting the hands on. So first we're going to start with the hour hand. Just line that up, often with the 12 o'clock position. It obviously doesn't really matter too much. Gently press that down into place, and then you want to have a quick look from the side just to check and see how flat that sits. Actually, it's sitting quite nice might not be able to see that from the video. So now I've got the hour hand on, we can get the minute hand on. Similar process, you want to line the minute hand up, this time with the hour hand, just making sure that it's central on the cannon pinion and lined up with the hour hand, and then just gently using the press set into place. The next hand we're going to change over these little plastic fittings for this one, so we're going to put on the second hand. Doesn't matter too much about lining this one up. You can always it'll change, it'll vary where you've got it anyway. So it's always obviously nice to try and keep it in line as much as possible for good practice. This particular one's quite tight, so I'm going to have to hold it in place. There we go. And making sure that it's nice and flat. And then once that's done, push the crown in and off we go. Now the dial and hands are on the movement, we can put it in the case. There's just one thing to note when you're putting this in. You've got the dial seat there, and you've got a bit of space, and you've got another lip in here. This is where the case clamps hold on to. You may have received case clamps with the movement, or you may have to purchase those separately. I've got a small tub of various different size clamps, but I ended up having to remake or adjust those clamps so that they fitted correctly for this case. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the movement down, dial up. We've got one of these blasters, these air. Just a good idea to get the dust off. It stops any moisture. If you were to use your breath, for example, it stops any moisture getting on the dial. So just give that a couple of pumps. Do the same with the case, and then put the case over the top of the movement. Flip the case in, pad over, and there we are in the movement. Then you're going to want to get the movement ring, which should have come with your case. This should fit perfectly around if you've selected the correct movement, as it does here. And then we're going to put the crown in place so that we can clamp the whole movement down. So now I've got the movement in the case rings in. We've put the crown in just to keep it centered. You can see there's still a bit of excess stem that we need to trim off. We've got two case screws, so we've got one here, one over here. And then what we need to do is put the case clamp in so that it goes underneath the ridge that's machined into the case. And we can put the screw in and then tighten that down. We'll do the same on the other side. See, the case clamps have lifted the movement up a little bit, and just gently push that down and get the other clamp in. You see, sometimes these clamps move a little bit, so you can use a pair of tweezers just to keep that over to one side. Again, just making sure that both screws are nice and tight. So now we can focus on shortening the crown stem to get the correct distance between the crown and the crown tube. Just going to measure this. So we're looking at about 4.7 millimeters. Should give us the right diameter. Now we're going to remove the crown and stem from the movement, and then using the pin vise remove the crown, and we can measure. You can see how much we then need. Tighten that up, and then we can go away and cut that stem. So now we've cut the stem, we're just going to tidy that up gently with a file. And now that fits nicely back to the crown. Remembering not to put too much into the not to tighten it up too strong. We can always add a bit of Loctite if we need. So now we've test fit the crown into the case, and it seems to work fine. It sits in position very nice. If it was too long, we'd just take another little bit off. If it was too short, we'd have to go away, get a new stem, and try and refit that. I've greased up the O-ring with some silicone grease. It's these nice little tubs. You have a sponge inside, well, sponge both sides. You close it, you just rotate that a few times, and it coats the O-ring or gasket in silicone grease. I have put this on a timing machine, and it doesn't need any timing at all, so it was running at spot on 0 seconds with 0 beat error, so, and about 310 degrees of amplitude, so that's really good. So there's just two things left to do. That's put the case back on. Actually, I've still got the sticker on the back. I'll go away and tighten that down. So now I've got the case back on. You can get the first glimpse of the watch back together. So the next thing to do is to put the strap on. So this one actually came with a very nice metal solid link strap with a nice clasp. To put this in, simply just a case of sliding the lugs into place and then gently pulling the spring bars over, and just listen for that click so that you know, there we go, that that's then in the correct place. And then we're going to do that on the other side as well. So we've still got all the plastic on this, going to enjoy taking that off. For some of you are like me, you like to take it's quite satisfying taking all the plastic coverings off. Again, listening for that nice satisfying click. So there we go, we've got the watch back together with the bracelet on. Just to kind of close out, I just want to run through some of the details of the parts. So the case was a 40mm case with a sapphire glass. This was quite cheap at £36, including postage. I think you can actually get this cheaper when this arrived. It came with a card with a website on it. You can get it slightly cheaper on there. The dial is 29mm. So when you're going online and looking at the cases, there's two things you want to check with the case. That's the movement that fits the case. So maybe you pick the movement first, or you've picked the case first. Either way, you need to make sure you note that. This particular one was for an ETA 2824. Fortunately, the Sellita SW200 movement fits exactly the same movement pretty much as the ETA 2824. There's some minor differences here and there, but its dimensions are the same. And the dial diameter for this watch was quoted as 28.3 to 29.3 millimeters. So 29 millimeters for the dial was perfect. The next thing you want to look at is the hands. So these are obviously Mercedes hands. I ended up getting them spec'd separately. So the hour hand has a fitment hole diameter of 1.5 millimeters, and it's 8 millimeters long. The hour hand has a fitment hole of 0.9 millimeters and is 12.5 millimeters long, and the second hand has a fitment of 0.25 millimeters and is 12.5 millimeters long. They seem to work really nicely. You can get these in sets. You can, if you type in the particular movement you want, followed by hands into something like eBay or a search engine, these will come up in sets that will fit the particular dial size that you're after. So, but if you are ordering separately, those are the different measurements that I've used on this particular one. And that's it. So it's been timed. Looks like it's going to keep really good time. It should do. It's a chronometer certified movement. You can get the Seagull movement. Turns out it's about £45 for the movement. The dials vary between £10 and £15, and in total the hands were about £4 in total. So it's quite cheap, and you get quite a nice looking watch out of it. So thank you very much for watching. There is a service video for the Sellita SW200, so if you want to see that as well, please check that out. That'll be the same for the ETA 2824 and the Seagull clone movement. They're all the same, so check that out. If you like the video, please hit that like button, and please subscribe to the channel, and we'll got some more projects on the go, so those will be coming up soon.